Hello and welcome back to the Airing It Out podcast, the show all about mental health where we try to empower hearts and minds, educate through experience and cultivate a community of conscious well-being. Now, just as a reminder before we get started, this is not a substitute for professional help. We are here to help one another and support ourselves within a community that we are trying to upraise and cultivate, but there are limitations as to what we can do. I cannot offer you professional help because I am not a professional. We will signpost you towards places where you may be able to receive that help always, but please do not rely on us and finding that help and support here. We will always have you within our heart's best interest, but there are certain things that are best left to the professionals. So today we're talking about journaling, what it is, what good it can do, what good it's done me, and some examples of why I do it, and how perhaps you can get started at home. So, without further ado, welcome. So, when someone talks about journaling, from an outsider perspective, it can mean so many things, and I think that can often be quite intimidating to somebody who's never journaled before. You get given a book or you have one set in front of you, and there are 101 million things that you could write, so how do you pick one? And so today we're going to go over a few of the things to perhaps encourage you or to at least help you understand what the processing of journaling is and what good it could do in your lives. So to me, journaling it's about building a relationship with yourself. It's about connecting with your thoughts and your feelings in perhaps a deeper way than you would normally in your day-to-day life. So journaling can mean so many different things. If you got an empty journal put in front of you, there are 101 million things that you could write. That how do you pick one? Where do you start? That's the big question, and it can often be quite intimidating where and when to get started with. How do you write something down, or what do you write down that you kind of want to just keep it at arm's length maybe. So we're going to talk about it a bit, and one of the things that we're going to start by talking about is, what is it? People have done it, throughout time, but how can doing it now benefit us as a people in the 21st century? And I think the main thing for me about defining what journaling is, it's about creating and developing and nurturing a connection with yourself. It's a fundamental way of how you as an individual can get to know yourself better. A lot of people don't feel the need to, but there are some people who look at themselves, they introspect and they reflect, and journaling can be such a fantastic tool, a fantastic medium to help you do that, to help give you some kind of structure, to help alleviate your mind of some of the things which weigh heavily on it, or simply to have something to share with. And it's an expression of your own words, and you can do it for official things like setting goals or reflecting on something, or you can use it as a means of expression, getting in touch with your heart as much as it can be getting in touch with your mind. And the more you do these things and the deeper you go and the further you take it, the more unified, I dare say, the more unified you could feel as an individual with who you are, the things that mean a lot to you, and the things that you want to be or want to become, or the values you aspire to. So there's a plethora of reasons as to why an individual would want to begin journaling. As I've mentioned initially, it can be an excellent way of getting to know yourself or connecting with yourself a bit better, but I'll touch on that again in a moment. But I think if you treated that as almost an informal way of journaling, then you also have the formal. So instead of, it can be also likened to keeping a diary. Instead of just writing all the gossip about what's going on in your day, or, all the boys that are looking good out there, maybe not. It's also a way to help you keep track of things, help you keep on top of things that are going on in your life. So you may have an event that's coming up and that you want to prepare for it. So instead of just dealing with it all in your head and thinking, okay, this is getting a bit a lot, once it does start reaching that capacity and starting to boil over a little bit, I'd say that would be a perfect time to start writing about it. You can take pen to paper and start thinking about and writing your thoughts about this thing leading up to it. You could write about how you're going to approach this, what you want to get out of it, the things that you're going to do, and how you want to achieve this goal. So keeping up with events like that, it could be reflective, it could be retrospective of an event. Perhaps this event came and went, and there were certain things, certain thoughts and feelings that you had towards this event that while they were in you, they were kind of floating around, but journaling gives you an opportunity to take it from in and then put it out. And I mentioned something like that in the last episode, where the less you can contain emotionally and within your thoughts, then the less burden that your body and mind has to carry around each day. And once you project it, you give something out to the universe. You're not only alleviating yourself of the weight of that thought or that feeling, but you're giving something to the world. You're taking something from within you and expressing it outwardly. And that could be not only gratifying and rewarding, but it pays dividends in itself by merely putting it out there. And in regards to connecting to yourself as an individual, if you at all, like me, are introspective or reflective, or you find yourself needing or wanting to process events or things or feelings, then understanding and practicing your methods of articulation can be really good in learning how to communicate with yourself. You're writing on a bit of paper, but it's as if you're writing almost to a mirror. So where you are writing to this book, you don't have to withhold anything from this book. You don't have to share it with anybody, so you're free from judgment. You are given the opportunity by writing in a journal. That comes with the implicit security that this is for your eyes only, this is for you. And so this is a rare instance and opportunity for you to articulate yourself, or to express yourself, or just to illustrate. It can be in whatever way. It's an opportunity for you to put pen to paper and to truly understand what your internal voice is, whether that is representative in your thoughts, or through your thoughts, or through your feelings. As I mentioned, there are so many different ways that you can do it. It can be writing poetry, writing a haiku, a simple journal entry. It could be an illustration. Whatever it is, that is you learning and practicing your own internal voice. And that is incredibly beneficial in understanding who you are as an individual, and also communicating with yourself in the future. I pointed out in a previous episode, and as you'll be able to see behind me today, I have my journals. These 3 books were filled out with entries that began about 3 years ago, all of which took me different times to fill out. The entries could last from like half a page to 8 or 9 sometimes, and it really varies, and the variety of them is kind of unrestricted in the things that you can write. As you begin to journal a little bit more, you'll find the uses expand, because it can be just getting on top of something. It can be writing down a quick thought, a fleeting thought. That's what I've been doing recently, is taking a notebook and writing down all of the thoughts that I know in 5 minutes they're going to be gone. They are going to be gone. Write them down. And it's been really productive in helping me kind of remember the things that I want to remember as well. But it is just massively staying on top of my life, and it is keeping and nurturing that connection that I have with myself. I've got an active mind. I've got a busy mind. Unfortunately, while it is my greatest asset, it is also my greatest detriment. That is what, my mind is what gave me my anxiety, which kicked off my mental illness escapades, for lack of a better word. And it was my dad who kind of put me onto journaling, when he kind of introduced me to the idea of all these things that you've got going on in your mind. You're at the moment afflicted with an illness that exists within your mind. all these thoughts, these racing thoughts, feelings that you can't control. They have neither a start nor end, but all they're doing is circulating. So the form in which my early journal entries took, it could have been a sentence, it could have been a page worth of description, it could have been trying to visualize the thoughts that I was having, and it was, again, just a process of expression. It was very ropey and disjointed, and it felt one was never the same as the other, although a lot of them were coloured in the same shade of grey. They never quite looked the same. There was always something different, and I think looking back, that was visualizing or expressing these thoughts through different lenses of articulation, and eventually they did come together. My thoughts I was able to express them along the same similar kind of line, rather than being so disjointed and scattered. And that did help. That was me finding my own voice within writing. I've always loved writing, but the act of getting something from your head and onto paper, it really makes a difference. Over the past year and a half, I've been trying to do so more with my feelings as well. Because my illness was so thought-orientated, the recovery process of that also kind of became thought-orientated. So you've got the thing which has put you in danger, now let's fix it and create a deterrent or be proactive in it. But it was all kind of thought structured rather than feeling structured. So I saw the need to express those feelings, and again, journaling became my method of doing that to begin with. It was a non-official expression and sharing, and the knowledge of my security in having this thing which I could express. And I wasn't connected with my emotions because of my depression. I'd shoved my heart so far down deep into my body that it took like an entire mining operation over a long period of time to dig back up. And I was scared and nervous about these entries of where I was writing about my writing about my feelings, because I wasn't familiar with them. I didn't recognize them and I didn't understand them, and it scared me. But I'm still working on that now, however many years down the line it is. But expressing it is like art in a way, but it is art for the self. It is art for the purpose of the self, in the way in which you're doing it to kind of understand who you are as an individual. You're trying to find your voice, and you're learning more about yourself as you go, not only through the practice, but through the attempt of expression, the attempting of shining a light on the things within you which you haven't perhaps looked at before, or finding the extent of the depths that you have within you that need to come out. And I think that in itself essentially boils down to what it is that we're trying to do here, to get people to talk and open up about the things within themselves which they might feel are there, or they might think are there, but perhaps require a little bit of practice and a little bit of time and a bit of TLC to understand, excavate and express. The excavation and then expressing, the reason we do this in a journal is because it's a matter of honesty, and there has to be expression within that honesty, because you can write a journal entry and it can have a few white lies in it, but the only person that you're lying to when you're writing in a journal is yourself, and that can be incredibly detrimental to yourself moving forward. A journal is something that you have the privilege to be absolutely honest and true with, and I think that where that can be so flippant in other people, and there's a lot more that you risk when you do that with other people in doing that with a journal, that gives you that first step to knowing the truth within you, knowing what it is that you have to say, and knowing how it is that you want to say it, so that when it comes to the time where you might have to, or you might want to share that with somebody, You might want to share what's going on, the things which you've identified within yourself, or the parts of you which you now know to be there. Once you want to take that from within and share it without, but to another individual, you not only have a means of saying that, but you have the confidence in knowing that it comes from a place of truth. It comes from that truth because you've practiced that. You've put that onto pen and paper before in somewhere where you know you're safe and secure to be honest. And you then have a confidence within yourself knowing that you've said these things before, you've gone over this before, you've got an idea of what it is that you want to say, and you have given yourself a way or an expression of how to say it. And that security, when we're talking about these kinds of things, can be absolutely invaluable, because you're taking something that was unknown and you've given yourself familiarity and confidence, and those can be absolutely paramount when taking it to a next scary step of telling somebody else. Just as a little side note, there was a few weeks back, I had finished the most orange journal up there on the shelf, and I had ordered a new one. However, there was a couple weeks, because I ordered a nice one from Etsy, I think it was going to take a little bit longer to get there. So I was just like, oh, right, a couple of weeks without a journal, I'll be fine. And while I survived, I pulled through, and there was my life, carried on day to day. I did get this. There was definitely something by the end of it where I felt like I was missing something. It felt like I didn't have an element of myself which I'd so often practiced and woven into my routine, that it felt off. It didn't feel quite right. And once I got this journal, I don't think my first thing to do was to go and then reflect about this, that, and the other. I think I found another one, and I just had to write something down. You go however long, 3 years, with writing down your thoughts, feelings, and approaches or reflections, etc. That you take that away, and then it's almost silly to say, but those things that you would be putting on paper, they don't go anywhere. They stay within you, and it gets to a point where they can potentially bubble over, and if they don't bubble over, they might just simmer. But that simmering can still be, it can have damaging effects, because it's this thing within you, it's this energy almost, these thoughts, they're not going anywhere, they're just sat there. So there could be other space for other things, there could be more room for fluidity and freedom, but because they haven't gone anywhere, they're just taking up space. And so I took to this journal to write. It wasn't even a journal, it was an Adventure Time notepad, and I wanted to start writing in it. It was just trying to get on top, see where I'm at, what is going on. And the thing that I found the most, what it all kind of came back to, was I'd lost this connection with myself. I hadn't lost it, but I wasn't practicing this connection with myself. I was going on day to day, and I was still practicing gratitude, and I was still saying the things that I loved, and still having mindful practices, but I wasn't taking stock of how I was feeling, what I was thinking, and the things that had happened that I thought I might need processing. And I did lose that connection with myself. I felt a disconnect I felt a part of the outside world because I was living in it. That was undeniable. But everything, when it began to look inwards, was a little bit less clear. It was more foggy and more uncoherent. And that, I really didn't like that. I didn't like that. I'm a bit of a writer and a bit of a thinker. So yeah, not having that connection was a bit precarious to me. And it was definitely something that I wanted to make up for, and I did. But I think that speaks to the benefits of what writing can do with you. It is incredibly empowering to have this connection. Okay, so here is the part of the show which I have been both excited for and dreading a little bit. In the essence of leading by example, of being honest, of having my heart on the shelf, I'm going to read some of my journal entries. Now, transparency. That's why I'm doing it. Transparency, and so that I can show you give you an insight into what my journal entries have been like, to help you understand who I am a bit better. Oh, maybe I'm stalling for time, who knows. This is my first, this is my second, this is my third. They all took about 3 years, to write, not each, but all of them. Let's have a look at the first page. Bear in mind, I had journaled a little bit, but not like properly before I began this one. So, the 28th of the 10th, 2020, it was a Wednesday. And I wrote on the first page, what a beautiful book. A gift from Ben, my brother, for my 22nd birthday. The purpose of this book, in theory, should become of some great sentimental value to me. I have a book for the express purpose of noting and writing ideas that I have, and with to one day pursue, if that. I was also gifted a book of improving my handwriting. I've so far seen minor improvements. If the contents of this book don't serve as motivation to read its contents, then maybe the handwriting will. It did not. Okay, let's have a look at some of the others. So just to have a little look at the evolution of my journaling, I'll read a little bit of each one of the pages. The language used in this one was so much different to these ones, because this one was towards the beginning of when I started turning my life around. So I had like a full steam ahead, go at it, attack it attitude. And some of the language is so much more different, but it's a lot more relaxed, a bit more, it's a little bit more thought out, rather than get it down, get it on paper, make it happen. So let's have a look at this one. Let's get a date, shall we? Oh, here we go. Another beautiful book. This time a gift to myself after having finished the journal that Ben gave me for my 22nd birthday. From the 28th of October 2020 to the 12th of March 2022, it took me exactly 500 days to finish my first journal. I came to regard the book as a close friend with whom I shared a unique relationship. I stand upon the precipice of the rest of my life. This journal, this new friend, will become of great importance and reliance to me. This one comes with no lines. I thought it could encourage greater neatness. It's a bit ironic. My note-taking, but it's also to encourage drawing of illustrations. May the time I spend with this journal see me live and experience life in its wonders and challenges like I'll never expect. So, yeah, a couple of things to touch on. This book is a friend. This comes from the relationship that I built with these journals. There's something in giving yourself permission to be honest and to be open and to articulate, judgment free of anybody else. That once you start writing these things, once you afford yourself that, you become fond of the thing that you're writing in, because it gives you those things. It gives you that recognition of expression. It gives you that self-identity, and it gives you the opportunity to unburden yourself, and that kind of becomes a bit of a relationship. You give all of that which is within you to this book, and in return it will give you those things. And I don't know, perhaps I was being a bit of a romanticist, but I had become very fond of these as inanimate objects as time went by. Let's have a look at the third one. I think this one's a little bit less glamorous. I do have a post-it note here in the front saying, "The essence of life will not be found in its prolongation." Just a little side note. Ah, yeah, this one's a poem. So as I mentioned, you get all forms of different kinds of entries. It can be whatever you're feeling. It can be whatever you're thinking. It's good to know that as time progressed, I was leading a little bit more with my feelings than my thoughts, because balance is key. A new journal, a new friend, the closest compatriot when no other shall hear, to whom I can confide without judgment nor censure. Inanimate, but like no other. From within I shall lay my soul bare, of trials, mountains, joys and despair. I vow to share with thee the destiny I so deliberately seize. In peace and balance I shall proceed, to meet each new day with grace and without hesitation. I come equipped with a heart both full and open, and a mind of inspiration and ideas. Interesting. So, I've been talking about the way you develop your own expression and your own voice and your own truth and your own honesty. And I like to think that that's a testament to that. And it's nice that I can share it with you now. It's a privilege that I can share it with you now. Hopefully that speaks to what journaling can do for you. It did so for me. So this week's exercise is obviously going to be asking you to do a journal entry. It can be 1, it can be 5, it doesn't matter. I've spoken to a few people about beginning journaling, and along the process of creating this podcast, journaling has been a recurring subject of conversation. And the people that I've spoken to have said, I have no idea. I don't know where to start. I don't know what I'd write. And again, it is that fear of, where do I start? There's 101 million things to do. It's the hardest part is, taking that first step. And it can be, I fully understand that. No, the amount of shite in these. But I think that's where the essence of what journaling comes from. You can have your formal entries, you can have your informal entries. The ones catching up with yourself like you would a friend, but it's, confiding within yourself, confiding your thoughts and opinions within a page. It can be setting goals for yourself. You might have something that you want to achieve. Write down what you want to achieve and how do I get that done? What approaches would I like to take in it? There might be something which you've been thinking about and you can't quite get off your mind. Then perhaps share with a piece of paper what it is that you're thinking about and why you might be thinking about it to the extent that you are. The purpose of journaling isn't to write something perfect. Quite the opposite. It's, I dare say, it's to write something very human, and the inherent nature of being human is that you are not perfect. I am not perfect. None of us are, and that's okay. You could write your first journal entry and think, well, that's a load of bollocks. But once you have it there, you have something that you can improve on. You have something which you might feel you can come back tomorrow and give another go. Or anything. It can be anything. You could write poetry and it could sound like absolute dog turd. You could write poetry and really surprise yourself because of the thought that you've given to it, because of the focus or the emotion that you've given to it. I'd like for you to write a journal entry. It can be short, it can be long, it doesn't matter. But I'd like for you, whether thought or feeling, to base your journal entry around something that comes from within. So whether it be from the heart or the mind, write about something that you might not perhaps share with somebody else, you might have shared with somebody else, but is an honest truth to you. And let me know how you get on. I don't expect you to write in and tell us every detail about your entry, but to know how you got on with the process, how you got on with the approach, what approach you ended up taking and how you felt afterwards. I would love to know how you got on. That would be really valuable. It could be a really beneficial habit. And I know that some of you, or a lot of you out there, already do. But I'd love to know how you get on with this week's challenge. And we'll catch up again next week. So, this has been a Common Bird production. Please continue taking care of yourself. And we'll see you next week. This has been a Common Bird production.